Hi, and welcome back to R for BRFSS. I'm Jennifer, your instructor for this tutorial series. Last time we met, we downloaded R, visited the CDC BRFSS 2017 website, and downloaded the data file from that website. Today, we're going to import our data file into R, look at the data file, and then export that data file back out of R. All right, so let's go ahead and get started right away with a new R session. So anytime you start a new R session, you have to set your CRAN mirror. So you do that by clicking on Packages, Set CRAN mirror, and then you have a list of options. And as I mentioned in the last video, if you stick with selecting Cloud, R will automatically set the most appropriate CRAN mirror for you. So I'm just going to click OK. Right now our CRAN mirror is set, and I debated about whether I should give you a really thorough introduction into how to code in R, but I think that might get overwhelming and complicated, so for our purposes, I guess I will be introducing you to new code and concepts as we need them for dealing with our BRFSS data. So nonetheless, I wanted to demonstrate to you that I can do some math. So if I type 3 plus 4, I get 7. At the same time, 3 times 4 equals 12, right? So obviously that's really basic arithmetic, but base R can handle many more complicated mathematical operations. This is just an example. R also recognizes letters. So if I type hello, no, it doesn't recognize that, because if you type something into the R console, R assumes that you're either calling a function or specifying an operation. So if you want to say hello as a character string, right, as the actual word, you have to wrap it in quotes. So we type quotes, hello, quotes, and R says hello back. And this is important because this hello without quotes, R assumed that you're trying to set an object. And what an object is it's kind of a placeholder. So you tell R, this object, which we called hello, the hello without quotes, right? This hello object stands for or means something else. So the way you specify that is you type, for example, hello without quotes. You put in a little arrow. This is called the assignment arrow, and it tells R that this word hello, this object hello, really stands for 3 plus 4, for example. And then we press enter, and R recognizes that when you type hello, what you're asking R to do is calculate 3 plus 4. So now if we type in hello again, we get 7. So R knows that hello is 3 plus 4, but it goes ahead and simplifies it anyway to 7. As another example, let's set x as an object to the very true statement that Jennifer is cool. Okay, wrapped in quotes, of course. I press enter. Now R recognizes that anytime we call x, we really want R to report back to us in quotes that Jennifer is cool. So x, yes, R agrees with me, Jennifer is cool. My work here is done. Fabulous. But be careful with setting objects, because if you set an object previously in your R session and you set that same object to a new function or command or operation, R will only remember the most recent assignment that you set, right? So we set x. X is the object assigned to Jennifer is cool. Now let's set x as the object assigned to, I don't know, Jennifer is not a very good typer, because that's true too, right? So now when I call in x, it will only remember that I'm not a very good typer, and it will forget what we previously assigned x as the object for. All right, so those are just 3 quick concepts. Base R can do a bunch of operations, math, etc. It recognizes letters. If you wrap it in quotes, it sees it as a character string. If you don't put something in quotes, it assumes you're calling an object, and you call objects by setting an assignment arrow. And just to clarify, other functions and commands in R also are not wrapped in quotes, but R already knows what those are. Okay, so we're getting a little complicated now, but just remember for today, we are going to be setting a command to an object using the assignment arrow. So that's just what I wanted to warm you up with. All right, so if you are working solely in the R console and maybe you want to type in a vector, type in a matrix, type in a data frame, and you're doing everything as is right in base R, you can just go ahead and start working. But for us, we will be calling in a data file from my desktop folder called R for BRFSS. So we have to change our directory. We do that by clicking on File, change dir, ... which means change directory. And then we go to the desktop folder, R for BRFSS, and we say OK. So now our directory is set to that folder. And we can verify that we selected the correct directory by checking the contents of that directory. So you do that by typing dir parentheses, and it will tell you everything that's in that folder. And so I have 3 documents in that folder, 2 PowerPoints, PowerPoint from Chapter 1 and the PowerPoint from today, Chapter 2, and our LLCP 2017 XPT file from last time. You'll also see this 4th object. I don't want to say object, we used that word earlier. This 4th item in my directory, that's actually this same Chapter 2 PowerPoint, but I have it open currently, so R signifies that with a little squiggle tilde right here. All right, so we've set our directory, we have our CRAN mirror set, I taught you some operations. Okay, now we're going to do something a little bit advanced. If you're working in base R, there's a lot of functionality, right? The package that comes installed with base R is called utils. But there are a ton of other packages available for different processes with additional functionality that are being updated all the time. So R is always coming out with new packages depending on what you need for your analysis or your programming. So you have 2 options for bringing a package into R. The first is by clicking on Packages and then clicking on Install Packages. And as you'll see when the window pops up, the list of available packages is extremely long. There must be hundreds of available packages ready to be used at any time for any possible analysis or programming needs that you may have, right? So I'm not sure why it's taking so long right now. We're just going to let that wheel spin. And okay, finally. Right, so I'm so sorry about that. So as you can see, there are a lot of packages, and you can go ahead and scroll through and find the one that you want, select, and press OK. But we're not going to do that because I don't really like digging through lists. So just back out of that. Instead, we're going to write a command called install.packages, parentheses, quote, and the name of the package that we're going to install now is called Rio. So the name of the package, quote, parentheses. So now it's installing that package. Today we're also going to work with a second package called the tidyverse. So do that again, install.packages, parentheses, quote, tidyverse, quote, parentheses. All right, and now it has installed both of those packages. Anytime you are working with a new package, you have to install it, but you only have to install that package one time. However, anytime you start a new R session and you want to use that package, you have to tell R to bring that package out from the library. So you do that by typing library, parentheses, the name of the package with without quotes, and parentheses. So first we'll call Rio out of the library, and then we're going to call the tidyverse out of the library by typing tidyverse library parentheses tidyverse parentheses. And now both of our packages have been successfully installed and unpacked from the library. Okay, now we're getting on to the good stuff. Finally, we're going to write a command from the Rio package. I guess first I should tell you what the Rio package does, right? So Rio is really good for importing weird file types. So base R can import txt files, CSV files, like your common standard regular file types, but not XPT. And the file that we have our BRFSS data in is XPT. So we are going to write a function from the Rio library, the Rio package, called import parentheses quote, and we're going to grab the name of our file type, which we have stored in our R for BRFSS folder. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight this file name and copy it, open R back up, paste it into my command, close that quote, close that parentheses. So this is the function. And if I press enter, R will run that function and display our data file to us. But as you know, that data file is very, very large. So I want to set this command as an object, which I will call LLCP 2017. Insert in the assignment arrow, and then go ahead and run that command. All right, and it's going to take a while to read in that file because it's a large file. Something that I like to do anytime I'm working with a new package is to look up that package documentation on the internet. Okay, so let's go to the internet. Let's use the Rio package as an example. I search R package Rio, and let's open up the first two results. So the first result is the CRAN package Rio. This is kind of like the history, I guess, of that package. But what we're interested in is the second result, which is a PDF file. And in this PDF file, it tells you all of the functionality and commands that come with this package. Yeah, so what we're going to be using Rio for today is to import the data file, which you just saw me do. And then we'll look at the data file using some tidyverse and base R commands. And then finally, after we're done looking at the data file, we'll export the data file back out of R. All right, so yeah, anytime you're working with a new package, I really recommend searching for that package online just to get familiar with all of the options that are open to you. All right, so it read in our data file. I'm going to call our LLCP 2017 object, which from now on I'll just call our data file, right? LLCP 2017 is our data file. Press enter. It's a lot. If I scroll all the way back up to the top, you'll see that all of this is the data file. Oh my gosh, it's a lot. And it didn't even start on the first line, right? I scrolled all the way up to the top of the window, and the data file is so big, we don't even see it all, and there are so many additional rows omitted. Also, I caught a mistake that I made in the last video. I said BRFSS has 40,000 observations per year. It actually looks like there's 400,000 observations per year. So in this particular data set, it's closer to 450,000, which is a ton, right? So it's huge. So calling our data frame directly is not very informative. There's just too much information there. So what we can do instead is type the command to look at just the first 6 rows. That command is called head parentheses LLCP 2017. So we want to look at the head, or just the top of our data file LLCP 2017. And now we have something which is much easier to look at. It's still a lot, Yep, it's still a lot, as it turns out. But now you can see the column names and the first 6 observations, right? And there are actually a lot of columns. Just scrolling through, you can see all of these columns. So if we're interested in the number of columns or how the columns are classified or specified within R, we can also look at the structure of our data frame. So we do that by typing str parentheses LLCP 2017. And this gives us specific information about each column, which is the variable that we're looking for, right? So these are the questions asked on the BRFSS survey. So for example, the first question is asking about the state that the respondent comes from. It's classified as a number, and the first however many people are from the state that's coded as 1, which is actually Alabama because it's alphabetical, right? And so if you go through all of these different variables, which are the column names, you'll see they're classified however they're classified and what the first however many options are. Not options, I meant observations are. All right, so we've looked at the head, we've looked at the structure. This isn't as useful, but just like you looked at the head, you can look at the tail. LLCP 2017, that gives you the bottom 6 observations. So as we said, this BRFSS, the 2017 BRFSS data has 450,000 observations. And these are the last 6, right? For all of the columns, for all of the variables, the last 6 observations. All right, there's only one more command that I want to teach you. This comes from the tidyverse. I believe it comes from the dplyr package, but don't quote. No, I'm pretty certain it's from dplyr, but don't quote me on that anyway. It comes from tidyverse. Okay, this is called glimpse. It's just another way to look at your data frame, okay? So as before, with the previous commands, with head and tail, let me scroll for a second, hold on. Scrolling, okay. So as with head and tail, the variables are displayed horizontally, but with structure and glimpse, they're displayed vertically, right? So on the left side. And then it tells you the type of the character class, the class of that variable, and then the first however many observations, right? So this is just another way to take a peek in at your data frame. All right. So, and actually, I led you astray. I have one final command that I want to teach you. It's called call names. As you can see, we've scrolled a lot, right? So there are so many column names. There are actually 340 something, more than 300, almost 350. So 358 variables in the BRFSS data set. And so if we just want to look at the variables to try to get to know, like what are our column headings, what data are we dealing with, we type call names and then the name of our data frame. Data file, LLCP 2017, close parentheses, and now we have just our variable names. So it's a lot, right? And the way that R displays this is you see this bracket 1 bracket. This is the first column, or the first variable. F month is the second, I date is the third, disp code is the seventh, and RFC3 is the 355th, and then finally AID-ST3 is the 355, 56, 57, 58th. So here we're displaying all 358 of our column names. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think you can also just type names. This might be part of the tidyverse. I'm going to be embarrassed if this doesn't work, but let's see. Names. Did that work? All right, that worked too. So as it turns out, you can search for call names or names, and it will display all of your column names for you. So, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I led you astray one more time. I forgot that we have to export our data file. So to do that, we type export, put a parentheses. Our data frame is called LLCP 2017. Put a comma and write in the name that you want to save it to. So you put that in quotes. I'm going to save it as LLCP 2017 again. And then, really important, don't forget to type in the file extension. So I'll save it as a .csv. And then end the quote, end the parentheses, press enter. It's working on getting it out of R. All right, let's see if we were successful. And here it is, our CSV file. And I'm going to open it up, and it's going to take a long time to load because, you know, we have 450,000 observations. Yeah, and to be honest, exporting this huge data file out of R is not that useful. But I just wanted to show you that we could do that because in the future, what we'll end up doing is subsetting our data file to work with a more manageable piece. So I'll actually look at the data from just one specific state. And that will be much easier to read into and out of R. And the reason why we'll want to read that out of R is so that we don't always have to call in the full data file and work with all of that gigantic data. We can just take a little chunk and work with that alone. And that will make our analysis much more efficient. It will give us kind of some more in-depth insight into the questions that we're really looking into, rather than just looking across the whole country, which is also informative. But yeah, I'm going to teach you how to subset, how to filter your data, how to change some of the variables, how to create some new variables. So we're just really going to be doing a lot of data manipulation, and it will be much faster with the smaller data file. So the CSV is almost open, guys. 4%. Here it is. All right, so this is what the BRFSS data file looks like in its entirety. I'll just quickly scroll all the way through all the columns. Okay, so that's that. I don't know if you saw, but there are some huge chunks of white space. Those are missing data. And that's because BRFSS has some required core questions, and then each state has some optional questions which they can decide to or decide not to ask their respondents. So it looks like, so the first state is Alabama. It looks like Alabama didn't ask any of these questions where you see the white space. All right, so those are all of the variables and the columns. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom, make sure we got every observation. And we did. So we have 450,017 rows. And if you remember, this data file has 450,016 observations. Because the first row is our column names, we just subtract 1 from this number, and it looks like we successfully exported every single observation and every single column. So today was a success. I'm pretty pleased about that. All right, thanks for sticking with me through this second chapter of R for BRFSS. Next time, we're going to spend some more time on the CDC website and look into the codebook and try to figure out just what the heck do all of these variable names mean. There are really a lot. There's 358, and we're going to get pretty familiar with a good number of them. So anyway, on that note, let me go ahead and close everything out, close our R session. I will not save the workspace image, close out the internet, no problem. All right, so thanks again for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye.